Now, I'm not one to gossip, but I will bring you the tea. Welcome to Chronicle Speaks. So, another Tim Norman update. The trial for James and the giant peach-shaped hips begins on September 6, 2022, and I've been keeping an eye on the case, and if anything pops up, I pop on to update. There were some availability issues with the medical examiner not being available during the first week of the trial. Tim and his attorneys then tried to monkey wrench the whole situation, trying to make sure that everything worked out in their favor. They finally came up with a stipulation that was okay and favorable for everyone. Now the U.S. government is wanting to use Tim's criminal past against him, and they're asking the court to okay it. I am here to break down all of the new developments in the Tim Norman case, but before we do so, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any of this tea. Now let's get back into it. All of this is going down because the former medical examiner, Dr. Jane Turner, who performed the autopsy on Andre, will not be available when the trial starts. Her son is getting married, so September 6th through the 12th, she will be gone. The wedding was scheduled way before Tim's trial date was announced, so she has valid reason to not be there. However, her testimony is very important. Of course, we all know that Andre was shot, but I've never seen information as to how many times or what the actual wound was that took his life. This is very important to the trial, so her testimony is needed. The United States is asking for a video deposition from her in her absence. Tim's attorneys are like, okay, we will okay that. However, in the event that one of our witnesses are not available, will you be okay with us doing the same thing? The government said, who is your witness? Tim's attorney said, hell, I don't know. We don't have any right now that can't show up, but in the event that we do, can you sign here on the dotted line saying that it's okay for one of ours not to show up? The government says, stop playing games. We are not taking that risk. Now, there you go, a 2-minute cliff note for everybody that was complaining about me reading the entire document.
Shut up.
So Tim's attorneys are basically asking the government to blindly sign an agreement that Tim can have a witness not show up to trial, but to submit a deposition via video, and the government just has to be okay with it. Now, the difference with the government is actually telling you who this person is, and later on they're going to tell you exactly why she's not able to show up. I feel like Tim's attorneys are on some sneak stuff, and the government does not want it to bite them in the rear end. And so they are pretty much protecting themselves. If we don't know who your witness is, then we're not okay with it. We're not signing anything. And I agree with them. So let's get into why her statement is important to this case. On March 15, 2016, Dr. Jane Turner conducted a post-mortem pathologist examination or autopsy on Andre Montgomery. On March 15, 2016, Dr. Turner determined that at the time of the autopsy, Andre Montgomery's height was 5'10" and his weight was 223 pounds. Dr. Turner identified a thoraco-abdominal gunshot wound in Andre Montgomery and recovered a bullet from that wound, which she placed in evidence. Dr. Turner identified a gunshot wound in Andrew Montgomery. Child, they messed up on the document. Andrew Montgomery's abdomen. Dr. Turner identified 2 gunshot wounds in Andre Montgomery's right upper extremity. Dr. Turner recovered a bullet from Andre Montgomery's right upper arm and placed the bullet in evidence. Dr. Turner concluded that the cause of death was a thoraco-abdominal gunshot wound. Dr. Turner concluded that the manner of death was homicide. So the government is using her testimony to prove that Andre was in fact murdered and that the person that killed him has already admitted to the murder. And with that being said, the government is left to prove that Tim used or caused use of an interstate commerce, and the interstate commerce was used with the intent that murder be committed. And they also have to prove that Tim paid or agreed to pay someone with the consideration of murder, which resulted in Andre passing away. After the government and Tim's attorneys went back and forth, they finally agreed to a stipulation, and Dr. Turner's deposition via video will be accepted. Tim has also requested to have Dr. Turner subpoenaed so she can testify in the defense case. The United States said, look, dummy, we told you one time that the lady was not going to be here. However, we won't object if you seek to call her as part of your case. At this point, what the hell can Tim and his attorneys ask the medical examiner that examined Andre? At this point, like, really, what are you going to ask? Are you going to try to vilify this boy even more? after you had him allegedly murdered? I guess we all shall see. Now let's get into the government wanting to impeach Tim with evidence of his prior convictions. Now we all know that Tim and his hips did about 10 years in prison before. Tim did half the sentence and his hips did the other half, so about 10 in all. Now the government is wanting to use that information to impeach him if he decides to testify. And I hope he will, because he isn't the brightest bulb in the package and he is good for hanging himself. So please speak, Tim, please. So Federal Rule of Evidence number 609 will allow a party to offer evidence of prior conviction to attack the witness character. So the government is asking this rule to be permitted without any objections to attack Tim's character for truthfulness. We all know the truth ain't in him. Now, typically, this is only allowed if the prior conviction was for a crime punishable by death or imprisonment in excess of 1 year. Now, typically, you can't use this rule if the conviction or the release from confinement was over 10 years ago. And we all know that Tim's convictions were way past 10 years ago, and we'll get into his convictions in a second. Now, according to this rule, if 10 years have already passed and you still want to use these convictions against the person, it will be up to the court to decide if these convictions, supported by the facts and circumstances, substantially outweigh its prejudicial effect, and the attorney has to give the opponent advance written notice. So let's get into Mr. Legs and Hips and Body's convictions. Now, defendant Norman's convictions are as follows. The first one was second-degree assault, and he was sentenced on August 22nd, 1997 to 7 years confinement. The second one was first-degree robbery, armed criminal action, and he was sentenced on August 22nd, 1997, and this one was to run concurrently with his first sentence. And for this one, he was sentenced to 12 years confinement. Now, the third one was attempted robbery, first degree, armed criminal action, kidnapping, facilitating a felony, inflicting injury, and terrorizing. Again, he was sentenced on August 22nd, 1997, and this one was to run concurrently with his second sentence. Now, Tim was released from confinement in the first case on January 25th, 2004. Tim was released from confinement on the second conviction on April 11, 2007, and Tim was released from confinement in the third case on April 11, 2007. So all in all, Tim did his 10 years. By filing this motion, the United States offers notice of intent to impeach defendant Norman with evidence of these convictions. So if Tim does decide to take his hips and all of his plumpness to sit down on the witness stand, not only will we have to pray for the chair that it can hold all of his lies, we have to pray for that chair that it can hold all of his ass. The government is praying that the jury will be able to see through Tim and all of his lies, and so that's why they're wanting to bring this Rule 609, because in cases like this, Tim's credibility will be a significant factor in the jury's consideration of evidence. The United States writes, in this present case, should defendant Norman testify, the United States expects he will offer testimony directly contradicting the evidence offered by witnesses for the United States, to wit, that defendant Norman had no role in organizing and directing the murder of his nephew, Andre Montgomery. This testimony will make defendant Norman's credibility a critical factor in this case. Once the defendant becomes a witness on his own behalf, the United States is entitled to impeach his testimony and attack his credibility with the fact and deferring nature of his prior conviction. I.e., you've been a monster since 1997, you ain't changing, you just got worse, and now you're starting to off your family. If the defense was smart, they would not allow Tim to take the stand, because I'm telling you, the prosecution is going to eat him alive. I believe Tim will take the stand because Tim likes the limelight. I think Tim smiled in his inmate picture because Tim knew that this would be seen. Tim likes attention no matter how he gets it. Tim soon will be getting all of the attention he needs. Once he hits that new cell, they'll see that he's the new booty with a woman body. Call him Mr. Hottie Toddy. What I need to do is hear from you. What do you think about these new developments with the Tim Norman case? And although since the case does not start until September 6th, how do you feel about the way the government is starting to present the information? We already know that they have a strong case. We don't really see too much on Tim's end, but how do you feel about how the government is presenting things so far? Leave a comment, and you know how we do. We'll talk about it down below. Talk to you guys later. Bye. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my new episodes.